Celtics and Bucks. Giannis has put together an MVP-caliber season, but in Game 1, he had just 22 points, stymied by the Celtics' lockdown defense. Here's Giannis on if he thinks the Bucks need to make any adjustments for Game 2 tonight in Milwaukee.
No, definitely not. We're just going to keep doing what we've been doing all year. I don't think there should be no change at all. Why should be a change after a game that we lost? You know, like, we should not be the team that, make the adjustment. Even though we lost the first game, we're just going to come out and, play our hardest, see how Game 2 go. If it doesn't go well for us, then you can think about, adjusting. But right now, we're not adjusting nothing. We're just going to play. Be us. We go out there and compete.
Mannix, what do you think about what Giannis had to say? Do you think he's right that this team doesn't have to make any adjustments ahead of Game 2 against the Celtics?
Well, there are things they don't need to adjust to. I mean, they can be better from three-point range. They were 13 for 39 in that Game 1. They were hesitating a lot on some of their shots. Thought the Boston defense confused them a little bit. And they can be the #1 ranked defensive team that they were during the regular season. Those are things you don't need to adjust. Just be the team that you are. But what Boston did that was really smart, and it's what Brad Stevens has done the last couple of playoffs, is that they throw different wrinkles at the teams they play. And if you look back historically at the way the Celtics have played Giannis, it's been a lot of, here's Shemi Ojeleye, or here's a one-on-one type of player, and we'll let you get yours while we defend everybody else. Giannis averaged 31 points per game against the Celtics during the regular season. This was a different look. They created a wall of defenders for Giannis to look at, and he was confused by that. So there better be an adjustment to that, or else Giannis could have the type of inefficient game that he had in Game 1.
And so I think you and I actually shockingly agree on this, that Milwaukee is going to look at the tape and say, man, what we need to change is be who we are. Actually close out on shooters properly the way we did all year long. Boston had its most efficient shooting game it has had since the All-Star break, and they did it on the road against the best defense in basketball. There's no coaching note on hitting open threes. There's no coaching note other than, hey, Pat Connaughton, if you're not hitting shots, you don't need to be playing. And this is a game where, if we're being honest, they missed Malcolm Brogdon. Now, he might be back as soon as Game 3, but he's a 50, 40, 90 guy who, it's not just Pat Connaughton's minutes, it's Sterling Brown's minutes that Malcolm Brogdon would be taking. But the biggest change that has to happen tonight, and I believe will happen tonight, is Milwaukee will go back to having the best player on the court, which they did not. Giannis will go back to being Giannis. You had said off the air something I want you to say on the air, which is Giannis's approach as far as needing to be able to go through the contact, power through people. You had talked to someone who knows him who said this is something that he, I don't know if he, will you say it? Like, what the story was. I don't want to tell you the story.
It's the physicality of the playoffs that Giannis hasn't quite adjusted to yet, which is normal because it takes some time during the postseason, and he's only had one series. But the big adjustment they're going to have to make is something I told you, and you didn't believe me, and you wouldn't give me any kind of credit for this. Brook Lopez can be a problem in a series like this. Boston's bread and butter play offensively is the pick and pop with Kyrie Irving and Al Horford. And another great adjustment the Celtics made was to put Aaron Baines on the bench, Marcus Morris in the starting lineup, and play Al Horford at the 5 position. So with Al Horford at the 5, you force Brook Lopez to have to step out and defend him in that spot, and it's very difficult for him to do it. Mike Budenholzer refused to switch on that play, and it left Brook Lopez alone on an island against a guy in Al Horford who can consistently knock down that shot. Nick, if that same look is there for Al Horford, he is going to make that at a very high percentage of time in Game 2.
And the reason that I didn't want to give you credit before Game 1, and after a blowout in Game 1, I still am not going to give you credit on that point, is 9 Milwaukee Bucks played in this basketball game aside from the final garbage 3 minutes, right? 9 of them. Every single one of them, they were outscored when they were on the floor. Except for who? Brook Lopez. In a game where they got mollywopped, where they got beat by 20+, in Brook Lopez's 25 minutes, oh, look at that. The Bucks outscored the Celtics by 2 points. In Giannis's minutes, they got outscored by 24. In Bledsoe's, they got outscored by 12. The Celtics did not crush that matchup edge. I don't think they will be able to.
You believe in the plus-minus too much. What did Brook Lopez have in the game? How many points did he have?
Brook Lopez, he wasn't in his shots. He was 1 of 5, but that's not your concern. Your concern is what he will do defensively, and in my mind, they weren't able to exploit that edge.
Can I tell you from a continuity standpoint, Milwaukee was surprised of how Boston ran its offense. They ran the pick and pop early, and Horford was hitting his shots. It gave them a huge advantage. Now, the intensity of the defense, this young basketball team that we know has the best record, will they be better defensively and be locked into that? But the change of pace was Brad Stevens came back with, when the second unit came in, he put Gordon Hayward in the pick and roll, and Gordon Hayward ate them alive as far as the intermediate, the floater, and or finding other things. So Brad did make some adjustments going into this, and it started when he won the Pacers series. That first practice, he told Marcus Morris, you're in the starting lineup. So we have to be able to give them credit. Let's see what Coach Bud, and let's see if Giannis. Because for me, the biggest adjustment for Giannis, I understand the contact factor, because that was an emphasis for him this season. He was going through people. But the defense in the playoffs is a little bit different. Some of those drives in, there are wide open threes on the outside. There were a couple of times where he didn't have to force that shot. Will he throw that ball out a little bit? I think that will be a good adjustment in game number 2 for the Bucks.
Look, I think Milwaukee wins game 2 because they're a really good team and they're playing at home and they know their backs are against the wall. But what is it going to take for you to believe that Boston might be the better team in this series? You talk
more
about
than one game.
Hold on.
More than one game.
You talk about adjustments. Let's take your little sheet of paper here and let's circle the number for Jason Tatum. 4 points for Jason Tatum in that game. He averaged 20 in the series against Indiana. How's that for an adjustment that Boston can make, where Jason Tatum, who is their second best offensive player, might be able to go off in a series like this?
I got to give Nick credit. Now, Dick didn't say this when you're here, and typically when people, they don't like to apologize, but Nick said, this part right here, Milwaukee's going to have to deal with, because Boston won without their second best player.
Without Tatum playing,
and that won't continue, and Tatum has been playing good.
Now, if you ask me, do I think throughout the series, will Tatum and Jaylen Brown combine for around 23 to 25 a game? I do. So in next game tonight, if Tatum goes off for 15 to 18 to 20 points, do I think Jaylen Brown is going to be 3 of 7 from 3 again, score 19 points again? I don't. So I think that will even out.
Why don't you think that? Why don't you think he can be 3 of 7 or 3 again? Last postseason, he was shooting 40%.
Because here's the funny thing about what happened with the Celtics is they played a whole regular season since then. And a guy who, coming out of college, was not a great three-point shooter, never profiled as a great three-point shooter, finished the playoffs with an offer in the playoffs last year. For a moment, Jaylen Brown was a really good three-point shooter. And then this year, he went back to being who he was every other point.
Goes 0 for whatever in Game 7.
Okay, that's fine, but I don't think he... Listen, we'll find out. You say, what is it going to take for me to believe?
Can at least more than one game? At least we say this is going to be a series? Because last week you didn't think it was going to be a series.
I said a gentleman's sweep, Bucks in 5.
You still believe that?
If you're asking me to pick a series right now, the smart thing would be to say Bucks in 6. But I'll stay with Bucks in 5.
Look, Terry Rozier's,
I would be more surprised. I want to make this very clear.
Okay.
I would be more surprised by by the Celtics winning this series than by the Bucks winning the next 4.
Look, I wrote this a couple of weeks ago, and Terry Rozier lent voice to it just the other day, that the fact that the regular season is over and all the minutes envy and the jealousy kind of washes away in the pursuit of winning 16 games.
Marcus Smart being hurt helps them too.
Well, I don't know if, I mean...
He's just on the minutes he's talking about as far as...
But you could, I mean... No, I mean, another guy...
He's got to keep that in his back pocket so when they lose, they can be like, man, if they had Marcus...
No, but Gordon Hayward playing at the level he's playing at right now, he is peaking as a player in this season.
13 points.
And this team is deep and they're talented. 13 points, like that's a negative. It's not just the points with Gordon Hayward. It's the assists. It's the hockey assists.
It's got to be because you
tell me... the matchups going against that second unit.
But how many times did Kyrie Irving get to play off the ball and post Eric Bledsoe up and go isolation as a 2-guard against them because Gordon Hayward was able to play the 1.
Last year, you ended up bald because you're wrong about the Cavs. Let's just make a shave your head bet about this series. I'll take the Bucks. You take the Celtics. We can do a little shave your head bet.
Who do you think's going to win? You think?
I think Boston wins.
He thinks the Celtics. Yeah.
Listen, let me tell you something, bro. You got some good hair going on, and I'm sure your people at the house are pretty satisfied. This dude is in search of a hairstyle, okay? So I wouldn't even been wet. One day it's wet.
I'm trying to shave my head.
He's trying to. He's trying to
get out. Oh, you're looking for the L.
Yeah. Oh no, absolutely. Right. Yes, absolutely.
I think Boston wins this series. They lose to Toronto. That's been my prediction all along. And I was surprised they won by 22, but I wasn't surprised they won the game, and I won't be surprised if they win Game 2.
All right. Well,
I'm surprised it's a series, man.
Stick around. Coming up, did Steve Kerr troll James Harden ahead of Game 2 next on First?
Wait, Mannix isn't leaving?
Where is Jaylen Brown on your list? Where is he?